It was my first Saturday in the mission field, very, very hot and humid. And my trainer said to me, okay, we're going to teach you how to tract. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that, but okay. And so we're driving and she found this random cluster of apartments. So she's like, okay, we're going to go tract these apartment complexes. And I just did not want to. But we got to the first set of apartments and we knocked every single door and people were very nice and respectful, but they said no. And I remember wanting to go back to the car and say, okay, I learned, let's do something else. But she said, no, we're going to tract until we know why we're here. And the story came to mind of when Elder Uchtdorf talked about how his wife lived in the last apartment on the very top floor, at like the back corner, and how if the missionaries had just given up, they wouldn't have found her. And so that story just kept popping in mind. And so we moved on to the second building. And I remember we were knocking doors, then we got to, I think it was apartment number 16. And we knock and this cute little woman answers and we introduce ourselves. And at the time I was in, the little village of Owego. And she says to me, oh, are you guys the church that's located in Owego? And we said, yeah, we are. And she said, oh, I've been praying that you guys would come back. And we said, oh. And she said, I have the Book of Mormon and I just started rereading it. And so she let us in, and she told us that she had met with missionaries a year earlier, but she did not feel ready at that time. Like, she knew it was good, but she was very, very nervous to get baptized at the time. And so she said no, and took a break. And in that time, she kind of not really forgot, but put the church on a back burner and looked at other churches, and then picked up the Book of Mormon and started reading it again. And less than a week before we got there, she prayed and asked Heavenly Father if we could come back. And so that was a huge testimony. And at that lesson, we committed her to baptism, and she got baptized a month later. The second one I could think of is in the same area. It was also, I think it was the same day that we found, the woman that got baptized in a month. We went and tried this woman who we found a record with, and she had been taught for about a year, and we're like, okay, she's met with missionaries before, let's go talk to her. And she welcomed us in, and she was really, really excited to meet us because the elders hadn't stopped by in a few weeks, and then we came and we didn't know about her. And so we came over and we taught her the first discussion, and I remember it was my first time committing someone to be baptized, and I was super, super nervous, but I just asked her if she would like to be baptized by someone holding the priesthood authority of God, and she said, yeah, I think I'm ready now. And so it took a bit of time. I think it was about 3 months later she got baptized. And the cool thing was I left that area about 2 months after she got baptized. No, it was more than that. But anyway, at the end of my mission, I was training a girl and she got really, really sick and had to get sent home. And so my mission president gave me a call and said, you're going back to Owego to finish your mission. And I said, oh, okay. And so I was really, really excited because I just loved that area. And so my companions didn't tell anyone that I was coming because I wanted it to be a surprise. And so after I'd left that area, Bonnie, the woman who had gotten baptized in October, went less active. And it really broke my heart because I knew how much she loved the gospel, but she just kind of had a hard time fitting in with the ward at that time. And so I came back, and I remember she just hugged me and wrapped her arms around me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love this woman. And she was so, so excited. And she said that she was going to come to church that Sunday. And so me and my companions kind of felt like she was just coming for me, but that entire time I was there, she continued to go every single Sunday. And while I was there, her granddaughter got baptized because her granddaughter came to church with her. And so they kind of made a little team where after I went home, the two of them started going together and they got to know the ward. And so it was really cool to see why the Lord wanted me to go back to my first area. That was one of the reasons. A third story I can think of also has to do with getting moved to that area. My entire mission, I was praying and fasting that I would be able to teach a family. mostly we just taught individuals, and they were so great, but I thought I always wanted to teach a family, and I didn't get that experience that much. And so almost every single fast Sunday, me and my companion would fast to teach a family. And so it was my last 9 weeks when I got sent back to my first area. And the sisters there were teaching a mom and her 4 children. And they hadn't been committed to baptism yet, but they said, we really feel like they're ready. They've been coming to church every week, and so we want to commit them to baptism. The problem is we never meet with them at the same time. It's like one here or one there, and we want to commit all of them to the same date. And so I remember my first lesson with them, everyone was there, and they said it was kind of a miracle. And so we committed them all to baptism, and they all accepted, and they all met that date. And that was another reason why I saw why the Lord needed me to come back to my first area. It was actually really hard to leave my previous area, my old companion, but to come back and see those miracles was incredible. And the last story I can think of was in my second area, and my companion and I had gone a full transfer without having any investigators, and that was very, very uncommon for that area. And so we were very, very, I'm not saying frustrated is the right word, but we were just getting exhausted. Like we felt like we were doing everything we can, but we just couldn't find anyone to teach. And we knew that that area could prosper because it had in the past. And so one day my companion showed me this thing and preached my gospel that said, keep your line in the water at all times. I can't remember the exact quote now, but basically saying to be alert to teach people at all times, to never put your guard down, but to always be open to it. And so we always said a prayer at the door before we left. And so we said a prayer that we would be able to keep our line in the water all day and find someone to teach. And it was a Monday, a preparation day. And so we went to Walmart, and I remember it was Memorial Day, and I went up to go grab a cart, and this man went to go grab a cart at the same time, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, and he goes, oh no, go ahead and take it. So I took it, and he takes the cart behind me, and we're pushing, and we turned left to go to the pharmacy, and then I turned down an aisle, and my cart collided with the same man, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And he goes, oh no, it's fine. And then we moved on, and then we went over to the food aisle, and I remember we were gonna go get our chicken nuggets, and our cart collided with the same man again, and I was just like, this guy hates us. Like, we have hit him twice, and I took his cart away from him. Like, he hates us. And so then we turned down the next aisle, I think it was like the spaghetti aisle or something, and we saw him again, and I was like, oh no, it's the guy that probably hates us. And he goes, do you guys know where the vinegar is? And we go, no, sorry. And he goes, oh, don't you guys work here? And we go, oh no, we're missionaries. These are name badges because we're from Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he goes, oh, the Mormons? And we're like, yeah. He goes, oh, I went to one of your temples in Arizona. And we go, oh, really? And he told us he lived in Arizona for years. He had a friend who brought him to the temple for the open house and the visitor center. And he went to church with that same friend, and he had a copy of the Book of Mormon, but he lost it when he moved to New York. And so I said, I would love to come to your church sometime, but I work on Sundays. And so we said, well, you know, we have a ward activity this Saturday if you want to come to that. They're just having a barbecue and some games, and we're playing volleyball. And he said, yeah, I would love to come. So we gave him a card with our names and phone numbers, and we went off. And then we finished buying everything, and when we went to check out, all the lanes were really, really long except this one, and that man was standing in that lane, and we're like, all right. And so we stood in line, and he chatted up with us, and he said, all right, we'll see you Saturday. And that was Monday, and so the week was really, really hectic. And then Saturday came, and we're debating. We're like, okay, we can either go try to teach this one member, or we can go to this ward activity. And we weren't sure, and finally we're like, we'll just go to the ward activity. And on our way there, a member texted us, and she's like, a man from Walmart is here that knows you? And we're like, who? Oh, like we had completely forgotten, and we always invite people to this stuff and they don't usually come, and so we were just amazed. And so we came and we gave him a tour of the church, and we gave him a Book of Mormon and set up an appointment for the following Tuesday. And so we met with him Tuesday, and by the time we had gotten there, he had already read the introduction, all the testimonies by Joseph Smith and the Witnesses, and I think the first 2 books, like chapter 1 and 2 of First Nephi. And so later, like I think 2 days later, we went and taught him again, and we went more in depth about what the Book of Mormon was and why it's so important. And I remember we left that lesson and hadn't committed him to baptism, and we were both just kicking ourselves. We're like, why didn't we do that? And later that day he called us and he's like, I remember my heart just skipped a beat, because whenever investigators had called me in the past, they wanted to drop us. And so I saw he was calling, I'm like, oh no. And so we answered, he's like, you know, a lot of people don't like the Book of Mormon. And I was like, oh no, here it comes. And I go, yeah, you know, a lot of people just have a lot of misunderstandings about it, and they don't know about it, and so they don't agree with it. And he goes, yeah, but I do. And a lot of people don't think Joseph Smith was a prophet. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, but he is. And he goes, I know, I was walking through the mall and it just hit me. Joseph Smith is a prophet. And so I just wanted to ask you guys, when can I get baptized? And I remember my jaw just dropped and I was speechless, and my companion had to take the phone away from me because I just couldn't talk. I was like, oh my gosh, he just asked the golden question. So she went through the process. She's like, you know what, we want you to attend church for at least 4 weeks. We'll go over some other commandments that the Lord wants us to follow, but we can set a date with you and work towards that. And so we set a date with him. And he was just so solid. We had to push the date back because he had to find a new place to live because he was living with his girlfriend. But as soon as he did that, he was baptized, and he finished the Book of Mormon before he got baptized. And recently he just got his patriarchal blessing, and he passes the sacrament and attends the temple. And so it was really cool to go from 0 investigators to, it started with this one man. And after that, we found another girl who was searching for the gospel, and she introduced her friend to the gospel who just latched onto it right away. And we met another old man who loved the gospel. And so it was just one after the other. The Lord just led us to those who were ready.